Don't experience it, don't see it, nothing.
That comes at the same time to catch it.
They can't catch it. You have to make yourself a vessel. You get a glimpse of what it is, whatever that means. Whether you see it physically, you feel it, you get it. Everyone's different, but if you make yourself a kli to do it, and then you could start experiencing this love. The main time is that it comes in the morning, but it lasts throughout the day, and then you have different avodas, as you explained last time in mincha, and then mariv. Each one is different avodah in order to maintain the connection to the noam elyon that comes down. Okay, now we're doing Hilchas Tfilat Mincha Vav, Likutey Halachot, and we're on paragraph Chet. Okay, we talked about previously that every day there's a Noam Elyon that comes down to the world. The Noam Elyon is a supernal light that flows down into the world and mainly comes down in Shacharis. And this Noam Elyon comes from something called the Moichin of Eretz Yisrael, the brains of Eretz Yisrael, the way to think of inside Israel, so to speak. And the main way that this gets mekalkel, gets destroyed, is through when a person is pogam, the kavod of Hashem, when you blemish the honor of Hashem. When you do that, then you create moichin of chutz aretz. And the main moichin of chutz aretz is machloikas. Okay, disagreements. And where's disagreements mainly in? Halacha. Okay, so now what happens is, so chutz aretz has this disagreements in halacha. Everyone sees things differently because they don't see the glory of Hashem. If everyone saw the glory of Hashem, the halacha is very clear that it should be this way. But since people don't see that, therefore everyone has their opinion how they look at it, and there's different hashkafas, different chitas, and you could literally go from like dark to light within kosher halacha, so to speak, kosher halacha, because there's so much machlokes within it. Okay, now what happens is that the moichin chutz aretz, we have to fix it, and the way to fix it is basically by making yourself a kli to receive the noam elyon again. And how do you do that? Is through chesed and tzedakah, and that's why Avraham Avinu made his whole life about that. His whole life was about doing chesed. You know how far he would go. He'd be traveling in a place, and he would borrow money from someone in order to give tzedakah to someone else. And then when he was back in that place years later, he would pay that guy back. That's like the kind of extended chesed. He put himself so far to do chesed, and through that he was able to make himself a kli again to fix the blemishing of the honor of Hashem, so that he could receive the noam elyon. So therefore, Abraham represents shacharis because the main noam elyon flows down into the world in shacharis. And then Yitzhak is mincha. Mincha is the time where the other side, which is the moichin chutz aretz, or the chovlim, the destructive forces, come and they try to overpower. And Yitzhak comes and fixes it through his tefillah mincha. And then we said that the tefillah of Arvit is even the strongest out of all of them, because the night represents the time where there is no revelations of Hashem himself. There's only the destructive forces at night, and therefore Yaakov has to come, and you cannot fight it the same way that Avram and Yitzhak fought it. He has to do a whole new path. Then the path that he has to come and take is called the path of emes. And the more you are connected to the meat of emes, which Yaakov represents emes, then you automatically destroy the destructive forces in a way that they cannot come back. As it's brought down, and if you look in Torah Tet, in the Moran, that it talks about a person can be zocher to proper tefillah, and the way to be zocher to proper tefillah is through being connected to the meat of emes properly. So how do you be connected to the meat of emes? So it says that the more you are connected, the more you're going to shine from within yourself. Okay, as we know in the stone, in the ark of Noah, it says a light shone through the window. So there's two opinions. One says it was a stone itself that gave light, and one says there's a window that transported the light through it, or the light flew through the window. Okay, so the difference is it going to shine from the thing itself, which is the stone, or is it going to shine through you, which is like a window? So the more you're connected to the meat of emes, you're going to become like the stone that shines from within itself, and that itself destroys all the chovlim. Okay, and then we got into a couple different things related to Rosh Hashanah last time. I'm not going to repeat that over here. And now we're going to talk about a little bit how it relates to Yom Kippur. Okay, so now Yom Kippur is the main time where all the sins become fixed, and that they come through to the other side. The other side causes the person to sin. Okay, because Yom Kippur is slichat avonot, is the forgiveness of all of the sins. Because Yom Kippur goes all the way up to Bina, as is known, and Bina represents the Noam Elyon, as is brought down in the Kitvei Arizal, and Noam is Gematria 161. There's a lot of Kabbalistic reasons there. We're not going to go into it now. And this is the holy fast that we do in Yom Kippur, that we have to fast 5 levels of Inuim, which means like sufferings. Okay, Erev Yom Kippur, you have to eat. Because the main creation was for Hashem, and the main honor of Hashem is through man. As we explained last time, that in order to increase Hashem's honor is by creating people, having kids, purvu. As we know that Yitzhak, we explained last time, was born, he was the first person born in Kedusha. Avram was born not in Kedusha, but he became Kadosh, but Yitzhak was born in Kedusha, and he couldn't leave the land of Israel. Okay, so therefore, by creating man, the whole world is created for man. Therefore, because of that, that increases the honor of Hashem, because man is able to bring honor to Hashem. Okay, Ikar kavod, the main kavod of Hashem, the honor of Hashem comes through the holada, the birth, that comes from the Noma Elyon. And that's why Hashem created the world, in order that we could give Hashem honor. We could elevate His honor, the lower people, us here, that we have free choice. We could say, no, we're going to do what Hashem wants, and that elevates the honor of Hashem back to its source. And that's the main point of the creation of the world. Vavita teila migushe afar. Okay, it's placed over there. Okay, now, this is the general rule. All of the ta'anugim, all the pleasures, and the ahavot, the love of this world, all of them come from the sweetness of the Ne'imus Elyon, as we explained before. As the pasuk says, Ma yafita ma na'amta ahava b'tanugim. So really everything a person loves in this world, all the pleasures of this world, really come from their spiritual source that is much beyond the pleasures of this world. It's just the reason why a person wants things of this world is really that he wants in his soul things coming from the Noma Elyon. Just they don't know how to access it. They don't know that they really want that, but that's really what people really want. And this is the whole avoda of all the tzaddikim. They don't receive upon themselves any sweetness or pleasure from this world. They are able to break all of the pleasures of this world and elevate the sweetness to its source, which is the Nom Elyon. And that is the honor of Hashem to do that. That a person in this world is able to break his taivas, his desires, physical desires, and elevate them up to the Nom Elyon, and then receive such a higher pleasure. As is known, like for example, a sweetness in an apple. Where does that come from? It's a form of chesed. But if you go up to the next world, it might be a sweetness in a voice. If you go up to another world, it might be a sweetness in an idea. If you go up to another world, it might be a sweetness in feeling love for Hashem. So it just fell each world different level. So therefore, the Talmid Chacham, it says in the Gemara that a Talmid Chacham is not allowed fasting. Not allowed fasting. That's what it says, yeah.
Except on the fast.
Hi bar, yeah, except not his own fast. Hi bar be rav diativ betanita. Why? Because Hashem wants the world to exist, and therefore He wants to draw down the Nom Elyon in all of the loves of this world, which are eating and drinking. Okay, which is the eating and drinking keeps the world alive. So in order to stand this test, that you don't run after the sweet bitterness of this world, but you actually should make yourself holy according to the Torah, and to elevate the sweetness to its source, and that's Hashem's honor. But on Yom Kippur, which represents Olam Haba, and Olam Haba, we don't have any drinking and or eating. At a stage when Mashiach comes, which is specifically the Tchiyat HaMeitim, we're not going to have to live off physical foods. We're going to live more off energy. The so-called Almim energy is going to give us sustenance. Our souls is going to give our body life as opposed to the other way around. Because Yom Kippur represents that level of Olam Haba. So there's no eating, no drinking. Because Yom Kippur is two. It's Ima Uvatra Salkin Chada. The mother and the daughter go up as one, as is brought down in the Zohar and the Kitv Arizal. The Ima and the daughter represent the Nom Elyon and the Kavod. Okay, so the mother is the Nom Elyon, which comes from Bina, the light of Bina, which has pleasure in it. As you know, the inner light of Bina comes from Atik, which represents pleasure. Okay, so for when that gets manifest into the world, it comes out as the honor of Hashem. So therefore, when a person experiences the honor of Hashem, it's a very great pleasure. Okay, because the honor, the Nom Elyon, represents Bina, which is Im la Bina Tikra, and the Kavod represents Malchus, which is the daughter. As it says, Kol Kvuda Bat Melech, all the honor is the daughter of the king. and those represent Naomi and Ruth. Naomi represents Noam Elyon, and Ruth represents Kavod. As the sages say, Lama Nikra Shema Ruth. Why is her name called Ruth? Because David came from her, Sheriva LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'shirot Utishbachot, that sung to Hashem with praises and songs. So David represents honor, because it says Melech HaKavod, the king of honor. And Galus, it says about him, V'telachna Shteim, they went together. So Yom Kippur, they go up as one, meaning the daughter and the mother, which is the honor of Hashem, which is Malchus, and Bina, which is Noam Elyon, they both raise up. Okay? Because Yom Kippur represents Olam Haba, and in Olam Haba you have to elevate the honor of Hashem to its source in order that the Noam could be enclosed in the love of this world. And that's only in this world, but in the future time, it's going to say, V'nig l'kvod Hashem, the glory of Hashem will be revealed, and everyone is able to raise up the honor through drawing down the Noam inside of himself without being clothed into the world, which means like this. A person wants to draw down this light from above and draw it down into the physical things, but now it's actually very hard to do it because a person already has such a strong connection to this world and the pleasures of this world. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to be able to take the honor of Hashem and elevate it, and which means we're going to be able to bring it down into the physical things, that everything a person does is in order to be part of the honor of Hashem. You're eating, you're drinking, everything physical is to increase Hashem's honor. Now it's hard to make the separation, but when Mashiach comes, it's going to be more clear. And that's Yom Kippur, that has no eating or drinking, because it's Olam Haba. And the honor goes up until Noam without getting clothed in this world at all. Okay, so Va'az nitaken akol, and when you do that, everything gets fixed, which is on Yom Kippur. All the sins get fixed. V'leit reshu l'satan lan le'astune, and the Satan has no ability to come and do anything, as the sages say, because all of the destructive forces have no life force from the Kedusha once the honor and the Noam of Hashem go up on Yom Kippur. Because their whole life force comes from the blemishing of the honor of Hashem and the Ne'imus that gets in this world, and everybody according to the one they blemished in this, they blemish Hashem's honor. And from there, the destructive forces live off of. But a Yom Kippur, that the Ne'imus of Hashem doesn't get enclosed in the physical things of this world, therefore the destructive forces have no Yenika at all. And therefore you're able to have complete Slichat Avanot, the forgiveness of sins that come from, the sins come from the destructive forces, and therefore they get Bavatal on Yom Kippur. But a person cannot receive this ray on Yom Kippur unless he eats Erev Yom Kippur. Okay, it's like a mitzvah to eat before Yom Kippur, because you cannot have Olam Haba. You can only have Olam Haba if you fix yourself in this world. Therefore, a person comes to this world that you have all of the Ne'imus that's enclosed in the physical pleasures of this world, and through that specifically, you're able to grow Hashem's honor by refining yourself within this world, and through there you're able to merit the world to come. And that's going to be Hashem's glory being revealed without being enclosed in the physical things. So that's what it means, the Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur represents Olam Haba, that the honor of Hashem goes up to the Noam without being clothed in physical things, but you cannot get there unless you eat on Erev Yom Kippur. Because through eating in Kedusha, on Erev Yom Kippur, you're elevating the honor of Hashem, which is Shulchan Melachim, the table of kings, which is Melech HaKavod, the king of honor. And then you're able to Zoche on the holy day of Yom Kippur to increase Hashem's honor through the 5 voices, which is the 5 prayers that draw down from the Noam Elyon, but without it being enclosed in the physical things. That's what Yom Kippur represents too, which is the mother and the daughter that go up as one. Let me just finish it. 3 more lines. Have questions? 5 prayers Yom Kippur.
Okay.
You have 2 extras. You have Musaf and you have Ne'ilah, and the other 3. So understand this well, because these things that we just said, we still need to explain them very at length, and the time does not allow us to explain it properly. And because we have a concern of forgetfulness, that we don't forget this fully, I had to write them now like this, until they bring us a spirit from above to arouse us to do them. Okay, any questions? All we said so far? Okay, we'll continue on Perak Tet. What?
That place you were talking about.
The Noam Elyon?
Yeah,
It's like a light that comes down from above every day in order to renew the creation. And this is the light of Hashem. That's the main ability for a person to see the honor of Hashem comes from that light. And the more a person makes himself a kli through doing chesed and tzedakah in this world, then you're able to elevate the honor of Hashem back, and you're actually able to receive that light more and more.
What is this Or news? Is that similar to something else?
It's similar because it is a very hidden light with, amongst the mess and the darkness of the world. It's very hidden, this light. Most people probably don't see it.
Oh, okay. That's
it.
Drink and sleep inside of the sukkah. That's like the main mitzvah. That those are the needs of man and his life force and his pleasure. That everything should be done in the sukkah. Why? Because sukkah represents ima dim sachacha al benin, the mother that is covering over her sons. Okay, so this covering over is like the schach, which is the Noam Elyon. The mother is the Noam Elyon. So the light of the sukkah is the light of the Noam Elyon coming down. Em labina. So through the kedusha of the mitzvah of sukkah, we are zoche to elevate and to connect the sweeten, the neimus, into our food and drink and our nice dishes that we bring into the sukkah. So even during the week, so to speak, we're able to have this level of kedusha into the sukkah coming down, and to connect it with the Noam Elyon into the physical things. This is the main thing of a person in this world, that he shouldn't run after just the pleasures and the sweetness of worldly things, but he should actually connect himself and elevate everything to its source, to the Noam Elyon. And through this, you're zochet that all of your eating and drinking should be done in the sukkah, which then you're connecting that Noam Elyon into the physical things, and you're doing it all in kedusha. Because in Yom Kippur, you already were zoche to the level of Olam Haba. You merited the level of Olam Haba. That you don't have none of the sweetness of above gets enclosed in physical things. Just in your voice of your prayer, that's where the sweetness gets enclosed. Therefore, you have to have chamisha inuim, 5 inui means difficulties, which is like the fasting, which is olam haba, that doesn't have drinking or eating. But this you cannot do all the time. You can't do it all the time. You do it on Yom Kippur, okay? Or if someone that wants to do tshuva, so he takes upon himself fast, for example, because tshuva represents Yom Kippur, because a person through his sins, he was pogam in the neimus, so he has to do a fast to remove it from there, because he ran after the sweetness of this world and he went against the Torah. Therefore, his tikkun is through tshuva and fasting, which represents like Yom Kippur, because he has to completely separate himself from the pleasures of this world and to receive upon himself a fast for the tshuva that he's doing, which represents a concept of Yom Kippur, so that he could go to the level of Olam Haba, that the Noam doesn't get enclosed into the physical things, which is Yom Kippur. But this, you can't do it all the time, only a specific time, because like Yom Kippur, because on Yom Kippur you have to fast according to the Torah, okay, or according to each person that received upon himself a fast because of his sins. But the main avoda of a person in this world is that he should go according to the Torah, that you have to eat and drink according to your needs, according to the Torah. Don't run after it and completely be bent into it of the sweetness of the food and other things. But he should connect everything to its source of the Noam Elyon. Okay, so therefore the sages say in the Gemara and Ta'anit, it says, Bar be Rav diativ batanita. Bar, in the house of Rav, sat in a fast. Okay, Kalva lichul sherute. So it's like a dog was eating and was serving him, because the dogs, they represent maim meririn, like bitter waters, which is the opposite of sweetness. Therefore, this person who separated himself from wine is called a sinner, as the sages say. So a nazir, he eventually has to bring a korban because he has to atone for being a nazir. So it's not a lechatchila thing that a person does to be a nazir because he has to bring a korban for it.
They also came grapes.
Yeah, any grape product, yeah. Because that's also pleasure of the world. They want to separate themselves from pleasures.
Isn't the chumrah why he's doing it also? So
It's a chumrah, yeah.
so he
And you
gets-
can't be any type of nazir, there's only a specific type you could be.
What's this saying?
So this is like this. So the person, since he stopped drinking wine, he wasn't able to connect the sweetness of the wine to its source. Okay, so therefore after Yom Kippur, Hashem said we should sit in a sukkah, which is called Tzila de Mehemnuta, the shade of faith. That through that it's able to protect upon us the shade of Hashem's hands, and the Noam Elyon light comes upon us in the sukkah. And then he commanded us to eat and to drink in the sukkah. Why? Because through this we're able to connect the Ni'imus that's in this world to its source, which is the Noam Elyon, and that's what the sukkah does. Okay, and now we're going into more holidays. Now we're talking about Shmini Atzeret and Simchas Torah. So after the sukkah, you're connecting all of the physical things to its source, and you're eating everything in Kedusha through the Noam Elyon that's coming down, not just for the thing itself. So then after you finish that, you get to Shmini Atzeret and Simchas Torah. That then you finish the Torah and you start the Torah. Okay, you do the last part of the Torah, and then you also start Bereshit. So then you give everyone the honor in the honor of Torah, and you say 10 kavod la Torah, give honor to the Torah, and everyone gets an aliyah. Okay, so what's going on here? According to the kavanos of the Arizal and Shmini Atzeret, is basically the finishing of the tikkun that you started on Rosh Hashanah of each year. Because at Rosh Hashanah, you started bringing a new shefa of the Noam Elyon through the shofar. So when you blow the shofar, and so basically, when Rosh Hashanah night comes, as brought down all the Sfarim, that the will of Hashem, which is the pleasure and the ratzon to give to in order to create the world, it kind of goes back up, and only the exterior will stays, and that's why the world exists. But it's like an existing in a way that a person's like in a state of a faint. Like it's not really there. Okay, and then when the shofar blows, and Hashem's new will and pleasure and desire to create the world comes back down into the world, which represents a new shefa of the Noam Elyon that starts in the world on Rosh Hashanah.
So he brings it down.
Okay, that's the new moach that comes down until it creates holada, until it creates birth. As we see, Sarah was answering on Rosh Hashanah to have a kid. Okay, Chana was answering on Rosh Hashanah to have a kid. There's a few examples in the Torah that birth is related to this, because once a Noam Elyon comes down, it's all about giving honor to Hashem, and the way to give honor to Hashem is actually by holada, giving birth. Because the more people you have on the earth, therefore you have more people that represent Hashem and is able to give him the honor. So therefore, they're one and the same. So, therefore, new holy souls of the Jewish people could come down in order that Hashem's honor could be great because of this. And that is the tikkun. The tikkun finishes on Shmini Atzeret. Okay, so according to the Arizal, it's brought down that the nukva otzeret hatipa bishvil holada. The nukva stops the seed in order for the birth to come, as is brought down. Okay, that's all it says here. So al ken azika hagdalat hakava, and then you're able to have the main growth of Hashem's honor. Therefore, you start the Torah by saying Bereshit bara. Okay, so what does that mean? You read all the 10 ma'amarot, the 10 utterances that the Hashem created the world through them. Okay, so now once you read them, then the 10 utterances are now shining very strong, because now you fix the tikkun and you're able to draw down the Noam of Hashem until it's able to give birth to the souls of the Jewish people, and that is the main glory of Hashem. And that's why we had all these 10 utterances. Therefore, it is now fitting and proper to read Bereshit, because Bereshit is the 10 utterances that Hashem created the world with, because now we're completing this work. Okay, because now we have Hashem's honor in a revealed way, And we explained basically when Hashem gives a person an honor, it's really for a person to find about which of the 10 utterances this honor is related to and related back up to Hashem in order that Hashem's honor could be great. And so we're tying it back up to that, which we brought a couple classes ago. They're tying it back to that and saying that now we're reading Bereshit with the 10 utterances, because now the utterances are in their full strength and the honor is coming back down to the world. And that's the main tikkun that you do in Rosh Hashanah until Shmini Atzeret, is to fix the sin of Adam Rishon, that he blemished the honor of Hashem and he caused the other side to take hold of the Kedusha. So through the blemish of the 10 utterances, it's as if he destroyed the world that was created from the 10 utterances. Okay, because as is known that when he ate from the sin of the tree, then it brought death to the world until Mashiach comes. Okay, and it mixed all the good and the bad together in the world, which was separate before. Okay, so but with Hashem's kindness, He gave us something called tshuva. Okay, so what does that mean? All of the avot and all the Jewish people that came after them, the tzaddikim, that do this tikkun, the main thing starts in Rosh Hashanah till Shmini Atzeres. Therefore, in Shmini Atzeret, you basically finish the tikkun, and therefore you're able to now re-arouse the 10 utterances and by reading them into Torah and Parshat Bereshit. And then you're able to shine this great light through the revelation of Hashem's honor that's coming down now. And you're able to put the world back in life force that was created from these 10 utterances. Okay, so tikkun is to fix the honor of Hashem that was blemished by the sin of Adam Rishon.
How do you do that? That's a big question.
We're saying all these things that you're doing does that. Making yourself into a kli for, you're doing a lot. If I do a lot of chesed, and Rosh Hashanah itself is basically about you're doing malchios, which is making Hashem melucha. What do you say? Do the whole Torah. It's the whole Torah is this thing. This is like the whole Torah. This work. Because what's going to be when Mashiach comes? The honor of Hashem will be revealed. Everyone's going to see Hashem. You're not going to have to tell anybody. You're not going to have to convince anybody. It's going to be clear. Everyone's going to see it. And that's when this honor goes back to its source. There's not going to be any mechlokas in halacha, and mechlokas in general, and mechlokas chutz aretz, and in the Yisrael. No more mechlokas. Everyone's going to see one thing. It's true. And everyone's going to be clear. That's why it says, it's now how many halacha books we have. Oh my gosh. To know halacha or one thing, you got to look in so many places. Mashiach comes to me, one book, all halachas in it. It's going to be clear. It's going to be clear. Okay? Therefore, we have to finish the Torah first. Because you have to first finish the Godel, Kvodo Yitbarach, Shnitgadel Moshe Rabbeinu. They call Ha'atot v'Moftim. So you have to basically finish all of the honor of Hashem that Moshe Rabbeinu revealed through all the miracles in which Hashem sent him. As it says, L'chol ha'otot v'amoftim, u'l'chol hayad ha'chazaka, u'l'chol ha'mora ha'gadol. Don't experience it, don't see it, nothing.
That comes at the same.
They can't catch it. You have to make yourself a vessel. You get a glimpse of what it is, whatever that means. Whether you see it physically, you feel it, everyone's different. But if you make yourself a kli to do it, and then you could start experiencing this love. The main time is that it comes in the morning, but it lasts throughout the day. And then you have different avodas, as you explained last time in mincha, and then mariv. Each one is different avodah in order to maintain the connection to the Noam Elyon that comes down. So these verses, the last verses of the Torah, is basically showing Hashem's glory, how it got so great through Moshe Rabbeinu and all the miracles that was done to him. And this gets revealed specifically in Shmini Atzeret, because you finish the Torah, and then you restart the Torah in Simchas Torah. Okay, in Israel we have them together, but Chutz Aretz have one after the other. Okay, so therefore Shmini Atzeret is the end of the 3 holidays. It started Pesach, and then it finishes in Shmini Atzeret. They're all Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim. They're all a remembrance to the leaving of Egypt. Because when you left Egypt, that was the main glory of Hashem that got revealed. And it gets drawn down into Shmini Atzeret, because then the Shefa of the Noam Elyon comes into the Holada, to birth. Okay? And that's the main growing of Hashem's honor. Because if there was no people on the earth, who will make Hashem's honor great? Nobody, okay? won't be. Because only man has free choice. Therefore, when man does it, it's a whole different level than all the other things in creation that I already know about Hashem, like we see in Perek Shira, that all of different things in creation sing to Hashem. Even Gehenna sings to Hashem. Even the frogs sing to Hashem. Everyone knows about it, but man, all of a sudden we're too smart for it. We have too many chokhmas, and it blocks out Hashem. But we realize, no, it's true. There is Hashem, and when you give Hashem His honor back, that's the greatest thing. That's what Hashem wants more and more people, because for that reason. Okay, so the main growing of Hashem's honor is through the Jewish people that get born in each generation, that deal with speaking about and making known Hashem's honor. As it says, Dori Dori Shabach Ma'asecha, Kavod Malchuto Yomeru. Every generation will praise your work, your things you did, and your glory, where we will speak about. Therefore, Shmini Atzeret, you get the Holada, you get the birth. Okay, then you finish the Torah and you say all the miracles and all the wonders that Hashem did, which is talking about Hashem's greatness and His honor. And therefore you start Bereshit Bara Elokim, which you have the 10 utterances in which the world is created. And this is how Hashem sustains the world. And all of this is for Hashem's honor that will be revealed in this great light. Okay? Therefore, each person says 10 kavod la Torah, and everyone gets an aliyah to the Torah on this holiday.
10 what?
What is it? They get an aliyah to the Torah.
10 kavod, what is it?
10 kavod la Torah, give honor to the Torah.
Oh, 10 kavod.
Okay, so now, to remind us that each person has to be careful in Hashem's glory. So you shouldn't take the honor for yourself, chas v'shalom. You have to give it to Hashem and to the Torah. Because the main ray of the 10 utterances that get aroused now is through the honor of Hashem, which is all the source of all the creation, which Hashem created through the 10 utterances. Therefore, a person has to make sure that the kavod is kula omer, kula ma'amar. Everything is a word of Hashem. So every honor that comes to you is really just honor for Hashem. That this happens when a person is careful not to take pleasure of the honor that he receives, but he actually has to elevate it up to Hashem, to the Achdus Pashut im Torah, the simple unity with the Torah, and that's what it means, 10 kavod la Torah. And this is what the sages say, which Rashi says in the pasuk, Le'enei Kol Yisrael, to the eyes of all the Jewish people, Shenas'o libo lishbar luchot le'neim. Okay, the last pasuk of the Torah says that he wanted to break the tablets into the eyes of the Jewish people, and then the Rashi says, Ashrecha sheshavarta, praiseworthy are you who broke the tablets. Okay, that's the last pasuk of the Torah. What's going on? So he says, when it says Le'enei Kol Yisrael, to the eyes of all the Jewish people, that he raised up his heart to break the luchos in front of them, as it says, Vashbarem le'enechem. He broke them to their eyes. Okay, so Hashem basically agreed to what he was doing. Okay, as he says, Yishar kocha shishabarta. It's a good thing that you broke it. He agreed to him. He said, it's good that you broke the tablets. So what's going on here? It's a very big question. Why is this the biggest thing that we're mentioning in such a great praise of the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu? He broke the tablets. This is the last verse of the whole Torah. He broke the tablets, like God's words on the tablets. He broke it. And now God's saying, Yeshar koch sheshavarta. Okay? Ach be'emet. So this is also part of the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, that he went according to Hashem's dat to break the luchos, even though afterwards was the Maise Egel. Why? Because the main sin of the Egel, okay, is the calf, was through the Erev Rav that made the Jewish people sin. And this was the blemish of the Chovlim that the Ne'imus have to come and to fix. The Chovlim are destructive forces, the evil forces, that they have to be fixed by the Noam Elyon. The Noam Elyon has the ability to fix them. Okay, but we're saying if they go so deep and so bad, okay, so they're able to actually blemish the sweetness of the Ne'imus that comes down from above. As we explained, and that's why we say we have machlokas in Israel, really we shouldn't have any machlokas in Israel, only in Chutz Aretz. But since the Chutz Aretz got so bad, the moichin of Chutz Aretz got so bad, therefore the bad forces come and they actually attack the good forces, and the good forces have bad in them, and that's what happened in the Erev Rav, as we explained above a bunch of times. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to bring the Erev Rav in order to fix them, because the Erev Rav, they came from Mitzrayim, which is called Erevat Haaretz, the lowest place on earth, which is the main place of the Zuamat of Chutz Haaretz. Okay, the disgracefulness and the disgustingness of Chutz Haaretz, the main place of that is in Mitzrayim, which is the opposite of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore Mitzrayim is the main place of the blemish of the destructive forces that are the most severe. So Moshe held like this. He said, since the Jewish people are going out of Mitzrayim to come into Eretz Yisrael to receive the Torah, and the Torah represents the Shefa of the Noam Elyon that's coming down, and the whole, in Israel is, by the way, it's the opposite of nature. The whole existence of Israel is the opposite of nature. And a person, and if he wants to live with Hashem here, he has to do opposite the way he learned in Chutz Haaretz to a certain degree, in accordance with what the Torah does. You have to completely switch over the way you think in order to start doing it according to Hashem. If not, you're going to get hit left and right by all of the Choivlim, okay? So through this, the Choivlim, which is the Erev Rav, he thought through this they're able to be fixed. Okay, so therefore he had to do this. Now, but the truth is, we'll explain, but since there's Zuhama and their kilkul, their destruction and their bad part of them was so bad, Lo dai shelo nitkalkenu af gam. They're actually going to come and be bad for the Jewish people. Shekiblu the Torah shebechinat noam v'chitim be'egel. That the Jewish people will receive the Torah, which is the noam, and then they will still make them fall with the egel zahav. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu saw this, and he raised up his heart in order to break the luchos in front of their eyes. Al yedei zeh daika tiken rabeh. Through this itself, he was able to fix a lot of things, because the sages say, through the breaking of the tablets, forgetfulness came to the world, and through forgetfulness that came from the breaking of the tablets, came all of the machlokes that's in the Jewish people, which is the machlokes of kedusha of all the Tanaim and Amoraim, because their main machlokes is through forgetfulness, as the sages say in the Gemara Sanhedrin. Mishirabu Talmidei Shammai v'Hillel shelo shimshu kol tzarkan nitraba hamachlokes. When the students of Shammai and Hillel became more numerous, and they didn't do shimush according to they didn't learn under someone in the true way, then the machlokes came more and more. So what does that mean? Through forgetfulness that come down to them because they didn't do shimush properly. Shimush is when you learn under someone. Through that came because of the forgetfulness that came. Therefore, in truth, the sages say, "V'oto hayom shnitava machlokes haya domeh kayom shnishbru bo luchot." So, Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, they started discussing 18 halachas. Okay, it's brought down in the Gemara and Shabbos, and these 18 halachas. Okay, it says Beit Shammai, they used more svara. Svara means logical arguments to come up with the answer to the halachas, and Hillel used more Kabbalah, which means tradition that they received from above. And therefore, basically, it says that they started fighting one another, they couldn't agree into halachas, and because they started fighting, they said, we can't marry each other anymore, they divided each other, and then it says, on that day, after a little bit, that day, when they were so divided, it was worse than, it was as if they created two Torahs, and it was worse than the day of the Egel Zahav. So we see there's a connection between here and the Egel Zahav that came from the Shicha, the forgetfulness that came to the world, that caused this machlokes, and that's the Egel Zahav happened, which is the Erev Rav, which is the Chovlim that's coming to pogem the Ni'imus. That's what we're saying here. Okay. Kimisham ba'atzmo nitava machlokes. From there itself was created all of the machlokes through forgetfulness that was drawn down from the Egel Zahav. Therefore, all of the machlokes in Kedusha came from the Shvirat HaLuchos, from the breaking of the tablets. And through this, you make a tikkun gadol be'inin hachovlim. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu do this? All of a sudden, we have thousands of years of machlokes amongst halacha and of Tanai and Amoraim. Why? Because through this Moshe Rabbeinu was able to make a big tikkun for the destructive forces. Because they represent machlokes, as we explained. The deen, the judgment, can only be seen in its source. Therefore, specifically through the machlokes in Kedusha that came down through the breaking of the luchos, you're able to sweeten and mevatel the yanika, the life force, that all of the destructive forces are receiving from the Kedusha of the machlokes of Sitra Achra. So we're saying instead of having a machlokes of Sitra Achra, which is the air of Rav being in existence and having a bad machlokes on the other side, Moshe said, let me break the luchos, and because of that, I'll bring shicha into the world, and therefore the machlokes will no longer be in Sitra Achra. I'm going to take the power away from them, and the machlokes will be in Kedusha. I'll have machlokes in halacha within Kedusha. That's better than the machlokes in the Sitra Achra. Okay, as is brought down and over there. We'll explain a little more, because through the machlokes between the tzaddikim, that pushes away those that are not fitting, and they get pushed away. Why? Because the moichin, the brains of the tzaddikim, okay, they're the moch of Israel, and the moch of the people that get pushed away are the moch of chutz la'aretz, which are the chovlim. So since they are pogam in the kavod Hashem, because they want their own honor, therefore if the machlokes now goes into the Torah in Kedusha, they're going to be pushed away and they'll actually be destroyed automatically through the machlokes coming in Kedusha. And that's one of the reasons why we explain why Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos. Because when the Noam Elyon comes down, all of the destructive forces run to the Noam Elyon to be fixed. That the people that are pagum, the blemished people in their moach, which are the chovlim, the destructive forces, they all want to be fixed. Okay, and actually it would have been fitting for them to be fixed, but the problem is that they went too far in their lowliness. Okay, so if you want to bring them and to fix them, they're actually gonna destroy the goodness because they're so low and they're bad. And up to a certain point, they could be fixed by the Noam coming down. But once they reach a certain lower point, they're going to cause damage to the Noam that's coming down. Okay, and that's what happened with Moshe and Erev Rav. Therefore, it is a very good thing that Moshe broke the luchos and created machlokes between the tzaddikim. That through there,
okay, I see.
So therefore, since in the Kedusha now we have questions and doubts, what's the right halacha, what's the right approach, that pushes away the ones that cannot be in that circle, which means the chovlim that cannot be fixed anymore. And the ones that really do want to be fixed in a true way, they're able to come into the Kedusha, and what happens to them is that they have to suffer through different bizyonot, which means being disgraced, and they have to toil, and they got to push themselves really hard in order to come close. Because if everyone was able to see and feel the neimus, the metikus of the shefa of the Noam Elyon right away, everyone would run after it. Therefore, only ones that are fitting to really come on the inside are going to come in, take the pain until it ends, and they're going to come on the inside and experience the Noam Elyon. And the ones who are not fitting for it, they will be pushed away. And Moshe Rabbeinu did this all through breaking the luchos. So everyone would want to run after the nimus of the Torah that's coming from there, and therefore the whole Torah is hidden. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he wrote the Mishnah in a way that all the halachas are hidden inside of it. All the machlekes of all the Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Achronim, Rishonim, they're all in the Mishnah. It's like crazy. How do you do that? Why? Because everything is kept hidden. Therefore, there's a lot of barriers to get on the inside. So the ones that are fitting to come inside the machlekes in order to eventually experience the imus that's flowing down to the Torah constantly. They'll eventually get there. Okay, but the only thing is that a person has to really decide on his own how far he wants to go into it. And no one's going to tell you to do it. No one's going to command you to do it. Because you could be in the Torah halfway and everyone's, okay, it's fine, it's doing good. But if you really want it, the person has to go himself and go and do it. And this is brought down in the story of the Lost Princess, which Lost Princess represents this thing, the Noam Elyon, the sweetness inside the Torah, which is the Shekhinah, that a person could get a glimpse of, and then the princess gets lost in the story, and then the secondary person of the king decides on his own to go on the journey to find her again. And when he's going on the journey, he's going to ask everybody, I heard of this lost princess, I saw her, where is she? And everyone says, for sure she doesn't exist. And in the explanations, he explains that he goes to the biggest Talmidei Chachamim that are holding the whole Torah in their hand. And he say, no, it doesn't exist. And he goes to the person who's in charge of the winds, which represents the biggest Rebbe that is able to control the Ruchot of Hashem. And he also says it doesn't exist, but he knows it exists. And then he eventually finds it. It takes a lot of effort and toil to get there. And then eventually he gets to the Noam Elyon, and he's living in the real Kedusha. And this was in order to separate the ones who cannot enter in, which are the Chovlim that want to be fixed but cannot be fixed. Okay, so we'll pause it here.